All right, so welcome to your deep dive. And this time we are diving into a blog post you sent our way. It's called This Is For You. Interesting title,
Oh,
right?
intriguing.
Yeah, and it's from a website called Rantings of a Southern Madwoman. So the post, it's all about finding hope and solace when you're feeling, kind of lost and broken or just worn down by, life.
Yeah,
And it really leans on Christian faith and scripture for comfort and guidance.
yeah. And it starts right off the bat using really strong imagery, talking about feeling broken, lost,
Mm.
exhausted, like you're caught in a raging storm. So I'm curious, do any of those feelings particularly resonate with you?
Well, I think most people have felt that way at some point, right? Like we've all been through tough times that feel like we're, kind of being tossed around by forces we can't control. And I think that's where the blog post's central metaphor comes in. It compares life's challenges to those overwhelming storms.
Exactly. And it goes on to suggest that we often feel overwhelmed because we haven't tapped into our own inner strength. The Post uses this analogy of an eagle soaring above the storm. It's saying once you find that inner strength, those like tsunamis and hurricanes become more manageable thunderstorms.
I love that eagle analogy. It's such a powerful image of resilience. But it also makes me wonder, like, what does it actually look like to find that eagle strength, in the midst of real life struggles?
Well, the blog post seems to suggest that faith plays a key role in accessing that inner strength. It even uses a quote from Isaiah 40.31 to kind of drive the point home. It says, "Those who trust in the Lord shall renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles." So it's connecting that idea of resilience to the idea of faith.
Right. But then the post goes on to say something that I think might surprise some people. It says, there's a stigma with the words God, faith, prayer, Christianity, all because of judgmental individuals who misrepresent what Christianity is truly about. It's like the author is acknowledging that some people have had negative experiences with organized religion.
Yeah, and that's such an important point. I think many people can relate to having their faith shaken or even completely shattered by the actions of those who claim to represent it.
Yeah.
The Post doesn't shy away from that reality.
Yeah, it doesn't. Instead of avoiding that difficult conversation, the author seems to be saying, like, look, I get it. Some people have twisted the message of Christianity, and that's not what it's truly about.
Right, and I think that's a crucial distinction. The Post argues that if you can look beyond those negative experiences, you can find the true essence of God, which it describes as healing, beauty from ashes, and a world changed for the better.
So it's acknowledging the hurt that some people have experienced, but also inviting them to consider a different perspective, a perspective of hope and transformation, which makes me wonder, have you ever had an experience that made you question your own beliefs about faith?
Wow, that's a powerful question.
Hmm.
And I think it's something that a lot of people grapple with at some point in their lives. I know I certainly have.
Yeah. I think it's natural to question things, especially when life throws us curveballs or we encounter hypocrisy in the name of faith.
Absolutely. And it seems like the author of this blog post is inviting us to do just that, to question, to explore, and to ultimately find our own understanding of faith that resonates with our personal experience.
And the post goes on to reinforce this idea of transformation and hope with another biblical quote, this time from Isaiah 61.31, which talks about the beauty and splendor that God can bring into our lives. It's painting a picture of moving from darkness to light, from brokenness to wholeness.
It is a very evocative image, and it speaks to a core theme running through the post. This idea that even when we're hurting, even when we feel lost and broken, there's still a possibility for something beautiful to emerge from those ashes.
Yeah, yeah. But then the post makes a statement that seems to contradict, I don't know, like a common belief about faith. It says, embracing God's grace doesn't require giving up things you don't want to. That seems to go against the grain of the idea that faith requires sacrifice or self-denial.
That's a really insightful observation. And I think it's one of the more provocative aspects of this blog post. It directly addresses the misconception that faith is all about restrictions and giving things up. Instead, it frames it as receiving mercy, love, and forgiveness without conditions.
So it's more about what you gain than what you give up.
It seems so, at least according to the perspective presented in this post. It even goes so far as to offer a very simple, direct prayer. It says, "God, forgive me, save me, I need you, I can't do this alone."
Wow. It's a powerful expression of humility and surrender. And it really resonates with that sense of feeling overwhelmed and needing support. It's like the author is acknowledging that it's okay to admit we need help, that we can't always handle everything on our own.
Yes, and I think that's a message that a lot of people, especially those struggling with feelings of brokenness or inadequacy really need to hear.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that there's strength in acknowledging our vulnerabilities and reaching out for support.
Right, but at the same time, the post doesn't sugarcoat the reality that change takes time. It says change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of drawing closer to God, allowing Him to work in our lives, and fighting against negativity.
It's a very realistic perspective, and it's important to acknowledge that. Spiritual growth, just like any kind of personal growth, is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of doubt.
Yeah, it's not about finding some magic formula or instant fix. It's about committing to a process of growth, of leaning into faith even when things are tough, and of actively choosing hope over despair.
And that brings us to the powerful closing message of the post. Hope, grace, mercy, and love are coming for you. It's a declaration, a promise, and an invitation all rolled into one.
I love how it ends on such a positive and uplifting note. It leaves the reader with a sense of possibility and hope, a sense that even in the midst of struggles, something better is on the horizon.
It's a reminder that even when we feel lost and alone, we're not truly abandoned. There's a force greater than ourselves that's always there, offering comfort, guidance, and ultimately hope. You know, it's interesting how the post kind of weaves together personal emotions like feeling broken or lost with this bigger framework of faith. It seems to be saying, hey, here's what you might be feeling, and here's a way to think about it that could offer you some comfort.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's speaking directly to someone who's, going through a tough time and maybe questioning their faith. And I think the way the author connects those raw emotions to, those images of storms and eagles makes it even more relatable.
Yeah, you're right. The post isn't just about like abstract theological concepts. It's about finding strength and resilience in the face of, real life struggles. And I appreciate that it acknowledges the hypocrisy and judgment that can sometimes be associated with religion.
Yeah, there's a line that really stood out to me. Embracing God's grace doesn't require giving up things you don't want to. That just seems to challenge the notion that faith requires a lot of sacrifice and self-denial.
It's a bold statement for sure, and it might even raise some eyebrows. I mean, after all, a lot of spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of, surrender and letting go of attachments.
Right, it's like the author is saying God's love is freely given and you don't have to earn it by changing who you are.
Yeah, and I think it's important to consider the context here. The post is speaking to people who might be hurting, disillusioned, or feeling lost. In that sense, the message might be more about removing those barriers to entry.
So it's like saying you don't have to have it all figured out or be perfect to experience God's grace.
Exactly. Come as you are with all your imperfections and doubts. And I think that's a really powerful message for people who might be carrying a lot of shame or guilt.
Yeah. Another image that really resonated with me was the idea of God creating something beautiful from the ashes of our destruction. It's such a hopeful image, but it also makes me wonder, how does that transformation actually happen?
That's a great question. And I think it speaks to the idea that even our most painful experiences can be sources of growth and learning. It's not about erasing the past, but rather about finding meaning and purpose in it.
So it's like taking those broken pieces and using them to build something new and stronger.
Exactly. And that's where faith can play a role. It can provide a framework for understanding suffering, for finding hope in the midst of darkness, and for believing that something good can come out of even the most challenging experiences.
The post also suggests that this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to keep going even when things are tough.
It's a journey, not a quick fix. And just like any journey, there will be challenges along the way. There will be times when you feel lost, discouraged, or even tempted to give up.
Right, and I think that's where the idea of drawing closer to God comes in. It's about finding strength and support in something larger than yourself.
And it's about developing a practice of faith, whether that's through prayer, meditation, studying scripture, or connecting with a community of believers. It's about finding what works for you and committing to it, even when it's difficult.
The post also highlights the importance of fighting against negativity. It's saying that we have a choice in how we respond to challenges. We can either let them drag us down, or we can choose to focus on hope and possibility.
It's about cultivating a mindset of resilience and choosing to see the good even when things are tough. And I think that's where the eagle analogy comes back into play. The eagle doesn't just passively ride out the storm, it soars above it, using its strength and vision to find a clearer path.
One of the things that struck me about this post was the simple, direct prayer it suggests. It says, God, forgive me, save me, I need you, I can't do this alone.
It's incredibly powerful in its simplicity. And I think it cuts through a lot of the theological complexities that can sometimes make prayer feel intimidating or inaccessible.
It's just a raw, honest plea for help. And it speaks to that very human need for connection and support, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed or lost.
It's a reminder that it's okay to ask for help, to acknowledge our limitations, and to lean on something greater than ourselves.
The post seems to make a clear distinction between God and the way Christianity is sometimes portrayed. It seems to be saying that there's a difference between the true essence of faith and how it's practiced or presented in the world.
Yeah, it is an important distinction. And I think many people, regardless of their religious background, can relate to the idea that institutions or individuals can sometimes distort or misrepresent the core teachings of a faith.
So it's not necessarily about rejecting faith altogether, but rather about critically examining how it's being expressed and finding a way to connect with it on a more personal and authentic level.
And that can be a challenging process.
Yeah.
It requires discernment, critical thinking, and a willingness to question what we've been taught or told.
Which brings us back to that earlier question. Have you ever had an experience that made you question your own beliefs about faith?
I think anyone who engages with their faith on a deep level will inevitably encounter moments of doubt or questioning. It's part of the journey.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly evolving, and our understanding of faith evolves with us.
Exactly. And those moments of questioning can actually be incredibly valuable. They can lead us to a deeper, more nuanced understanding of our beliefs.
This post seems to be encouraging a more personal, experiential approach to faith. One that's less about dogma and more about a direct connection with something larger than ourselves.
I think that resonates with a lot of people today, especially those who might be disillusioned with organized religion or seeking a more spiritual connection that feels authentic to them.
It's about moving beyond the rituals and traditions and finding the heart of what faith truly means.
And that can look different for everyone. For some, it might involve exploring different spiritual traditions. For others, it might be about finding a community of like-minded individuals.
And for others, it might be a solitary journey of self-discovery and introspection.
The important thing is that it's a personal journey, one that's guided by your own intuition and experiences.
And the post emphasizes that it's not a journey that you have to take alone. It talks about drawing closer to God, but it also acknowledges the importance of community and support.
You're right, and that's something we haven't really touched on yet. The post focuses on the individual's journey of faith, but it also hints at the idea that finding a supportive community can be a vital part of the process.
Yeah, it's about having people who understand what you're going through, who can offer encouragement and guidance, and who can help you stay connected to something larger than yourself.
And I think that's a really important point to emphasize. Whether you find that community in a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or even just a group of friends who share your values, having that sense of belonging can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're not meant to go through life's challenges alone. There's strength in numbers, and there's power in sharing our experiences with others.
Wow, it's amazing how this blog post has really taken us on such a journey. We started with those intense feelings of brokenness and exhaustion.
Yeah.
And then it explored this idea of finding strength and hope through faith. And now we're reflecting on, the role of community and the importance of just personal connection.
Yeah, it really does highlight how interconnected all these aspects of our lives are. Our emotional well-being, our spiritual beliefs, and our sense of belonging. And, it reminds us that we don't have to navigate these challenges alone. Right. And, the post ends with this powerful declaration: hope, grace, mercy, and love are coming for you. It just leaves the reader with this sense of optimism and possibility.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even when we feel lost and alone, we're not truly abandoned. There's a force greater than ourselves that's always there, offering comfort, guidance, and ultimately hope.
And it's not just about passively waiting for that hope to arrive. The post really encourages us to, actively cultivate a mindset of resilience, to fight against negativity, and to draw closer to God.
It's about taking ownership of our spiritual journey, even when it's challenging, and recognizing that growth often happens in those moments when we're willing to question, to explore, and to be open to new perspectives.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about. It's challenged some of my preconceived notions about faith and reminded me of the importance of finding strength and support in both our personal beliefs and our connections with others.
Yeah, it's been a rich and thought-provoking conversation. And I think what resonates most with me is that message of hope that kind of permeates this whole blog post. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always a possibility for healing, growth, and transformation.
And that even when we feel broken, lost, or overwhelmed, we're not alone. There's a force of love and grace that's always there, ready to meet us where we are and guide us towards wholeness.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage you to reflect on what resonated most with you from this blog post. What insights did you gain? What questions are you still grappling with? And how might you apply these ideas to your own life?
Thank you for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery. We hope you found it meaningful and insightful. Remember, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep the conversation going.